Y'all, I be talking so fast. I think I be taking like too much air and I'm just like. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tatiana and I'm the owner of the Stationary Muse and a mentor and business coach for women wanting to start their very own stationery businesses. And if you are new here, definitely make sure you subscribe to my channel for more tips on entrepreneurship and just inspiration overall of life. I love to uplift you all and I would love to have you part of this family. I'm so excited that you are here. Today's video is going to be pretty fun because I'm going to be doing a Q&A and answering some of the questions that you guys sent over to me. So I'm really excited to dive into this. There's a little bit of some personal things in there as well as a ton of business questions. So let's get right into it. Okay, so I asked on YouTube and on both of my Instagrams to make sure I covered my bases to get a decent amount of questions. And so I have a little bit from everywhere and I'm actually going to start with the questions from here on YouTube first. So let me see here. Okay, so the first question, and this is from YouTube here, is when launching a business, would you say it's best to start from scratch with building your followers or clientele? Like, should you try to hold an organic following without recruiting friends and family from social media pages? I hope what I'm trying to ask makes sense. So, okay, I had to read over that a few more times. So I definitely think that you should 100% have an organic following, but at the same time, I believe that family and friends is really some of our first clients and customers. You know, they are the people that we know the most. They're the people that can get the word out about what you're doing. So while I don't necessarily think they are your target market, I do think that they can help you with growing the word about your business and getting it to the eyes that you want to see it on. So I would really focus on trying to find ways that you can, you know, kind of get your friends and family excited about what you have going on and that they'll want to support and share, even if they don't purchase anything, but just sharing, telling people about your business, telling them what you do. Those are all ways that people can support you to then get the organic following that you're looking for. Okay, so next question. Do you take a day off in the week from your businesses just so you can decompress and be fresh the next day to take them both on? So while I don't take a day off during the week, typically I will make sure that I take at least 1 to 2 days off in the month. And I know that that probably sounds kind of crazy, but just because with the way both of my businesses operate, I've set boundaries with different things that I do. So like with my one-on-one clients and even with my group program, I coach Tuesday through Thursday. So those are really my busiest days. Those are typically when I hold my kickoff calls if someone wants to potentially work with me. And then I have a little spot reserved on Saturday morning, some Saturday mornings. So I've set boundaries instead. And then even with the Stationary Muse, my product-based business, I find that I have just like moments where I'm just really creative or I'm really motivated and I tend to do it. But then if there's times where I'm just not feeling it and I'm not into it, I definitely just respect that for myself and I go ahead and take breaks. But there are times where I will just take a week and just decompress because being a solopreneur can be a lot and I don't have a team or anything like that. So it definitely is important for me to get that in. And so while I don't think it's healthy to go, it just depends on the season. So sometimes that's kind of how I am. Like right now I'm in the launch period of relaunching my site. So I'm doing work almost every day, but once the launch is over, I'm definitely going to have some time to decompress for sure. So okay, would be very glad to see making a full interior 2021 planner. I've recently been thinking hard whose ideas to follow, recently making a planner. Okay, I'm not sure if this is a question or not, but I do actually show pretty in-depth in my handmade planner masterclass how you can create the interior of your planner. So that's something you guys are interested in. That link is always down below to join that. But yeah, I'm not sure if I answered that question or not. Okay, do you work with virtual assistants? Or if not, do you think you may start seeing your businesses or rather your business that will require more attention? Okay, and sorry y'all, I'd clearly just be like trying to read and all that. Okay, so as of right now, I don't have a virtual assistant, but my younger sister does help me. Her name is Tia. She is amazing. And she helps with some social media things right now, email things. And so we're like kind of working together to really increase some of the things she's doing probably over the next couple of months as the business is growing. So I don't have a virtual assistant right now, but I have recognized that I need help and I'm slowly starting to make that a whole thing. So yeah, me and her are working on that. The next question is, advice on transitioning from being a girlfriend slash fiance to a wife and adapting to motherhood. Yes. Okay, this is a really good question. And I love the personal ones because sometimes like I talk about business all the time, you guys, so I really appreciate some kind of fresh things to talk about. I would say definitely when it comes to like transition from girlfriend to wife, from my personal experience, me and my husband, we were only dating from about, let me see, we officially got together in like October of 2015. And then, or no, I'm sorry, 2014, October of 2014. And then we ended up getting engaged in July of 2015, and then we got married in September of 2016. So if you guys have a little bit of a timeline right there. So obviously we're not dating very long before we got engaged. But the biggest thing I would say is it was definitely a transition when it was time for us to move in together, which we did move in together prior to us getting married. You know, some people have a problem with that. Some people are like, whatever, that's just what we chose to do. But I felt like it was just a transition. It was something like, you know, like he was kind of bringing all of the things that he knew growing up, the way that he did routines and stuff like that. Like I remember laundry was a big thing with like the way that we did laundry. And so just kind of learning each other's just, you know, like pet peeves and things like that was really interesting, especially when you're under one roof. So I'm not sure if you are living together currently or not, but that might be definitely a transition that will happen for sure. But other than that, I think as long as you know that you are with the person that you love and that you just feel like, okay, you know, this is my person, I think everything else just kind of comes naturally. There's always going to be problems. There's always going to be things that happens. It's marriage. And, you know, we're coming up on our 5-year anniversary, so I can definitely attest to that. But there's also so many amazing moments, and it's always great to have that friend right there with you to just share it all, whether good or bad. So definitely love being a wife, and it wasn't too bad of a transition. And then as far as adapting to motherhood, I think you never really do adapt, and that's just an honest opinion from me. I find that every time I think I'm just, you know, getting the hang of something, or like, oh, I think we got it, then Emery kind of shifts and does different things. And so for a long time I was like, you know, okay, I got this down. I was getting up early in the morning. Emery would be sleeping in until like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then the last month or so, y'all, she's getting up at like 6 o'clock. So it just like throws my whole morning off. And so there's always different things of trying to navigate and figure out what works best. Some days she naps, some days she doesn't. So that can kind of change the trajectory of the day. So I think the biggest thing with adapting to motherhood is just to realize that you can't control everything. To know that you are, as long as you're doing the best you can, that is all that matters. Do the best for your child and what you feel, you believe, not what everybody else thinks out there, because at the end of the day, you're the one that has to look your child in the face and make those decisions. You're the one that is making those decisions under your household. So I think it's just kind of being open to not knowing it all, and knowing that things are going to be changing constantly, and just realizing that that's just kind of part of motherhood. But yeah, I absolutely love being a mom. It is seriously the best feeling ever. And I was kind of nervous how it was going to be when I became a mom, but it has just been so natural, and it's such a blessing. Okay, so let's see what our next question is. Okay, how do you balance your family time with working? Do you have set times for both? Do you have any advice? Okay, so this is a good question and kind of a nice segue from the last thing. Okay, my battery died, so let me try to get back into what I was saying. So I kind of answered this a little bit with the other question, just about having like time to decompress. And so I definitely do make sure that I schedule time throughout the day that is just dedicated to me and my daughter. If you guys don't know, I work here from home. My daughter is here with me every day. So it's important to make sure that I do give her attention. And especially like when she first gets up in the morning, now it's a little bit different because she's getting up so early, so there may be a little bit of some time before I'm like ready, but usually I'll take an hour or two to really just like focus on her. We do learning and just different things so that she can have that attention and that time. So I do that most days, honestly. And then I think on the weekends I definitely make intentional time for us all to hang out, do something. I think it's important. And I think no matter what you're doing, even if you're an entrepreneur or not, I think you really want to be intentional about making the time for those that really matter in your life, and you know, whether whoever that is under your roof or the loved ones that are around you, because it's just, you know, life is really short. It's very unpredictable, and I think that just having that to be like the forefront and a priority for you is really important. So while I don't have things very set up specifically, because it just kind of just depends on what's going on in different seasons, I will say for the most part, I'm pretty present to a certain extent in the evenings, unless there's like a lot going on, or if I have like a coaching call or different things like that. So I just kind of work around my schedule and really work with what's going on. So like I was mentioning, if I'm in a launch season or something like that, most days are going to be filled with some type of work, even if it's just a couple of hours. But there's always time for my family every day at some point. And I definitely suggest, you know, for you all, the same thing is to realize there really isn't balance. There really isn't going to be like a perfect day where it's just like work, business, family, love life, you know, like all these things, like it doesn't go that way. Oh, and then self-care, like adding all that stuff. So just there's some days where work might be up here or family might be up here, and that's okay. As long as you're open to those things happening, that is all that matters, because that's the best way for me when I go into the day and I'm like, this is exactly how things are going to go. And then when it doesn't, or when it falls short of what I'm thinking, that's typically when I'm feeling kind of like defeated. But if I kind of go into the day like, okay, here are some loose plans of what I think I want to do, let me be open to some changes. And that is something I'm constantly working on. My husband can tell you about that. But yeah, so hopefully that answers that question. Okay, so now I'm going to move over to Instagram, because I have some questions on there that I want to make sure I get to. So let me find that. Okay, so the first question on here, and this was a lot of really good business questions, so let's get into these. I was like, okay, y'all actually showed up and asked some questions, so I was like really excited, because I love to help. So okay, the first question is, how did you know the businesses to start? This is a really good question. I think for me, back when I got started with everything, I officially would say I really got in entrepreneurship in 2013, because I really wanted to start a YouTube channel that was based on like natural hair, and I had a blog and different things like that. Prior to that, I had been on YouTube since 2008, but I was never looking at like a business. I just was more so on here singing and things like that. So it's really just what I was into at the current moment, and that may or may not be a good thing, but like I was really into natural hair at that time. In 2013, I had been natural for like a year or two at that point, and so I really wanted to share my journey. I really wanted to bring people along, do length checks and stuff like that, and so that was kind of the direction I was going in. Then I really got into photography, and so I started photography business. And so for me, it's always been what I've been passionate about at the time, and what just happened to really stick was the stationery thing, if you want to call it that, because it's turned into so much more than just the planner inserts that I started with. So I think it's really important that if you are thinking about starting a business, especially if it's just you, to really find something that you're passionate about and that you love and that you're educated on, you know, whether you're getting into a service or a product-based business, because it gets rough, you know, just the honest truth. And so if you love what you do, it just really helps a lot. So definitely, all my businesses have been started just purely out of things that I was already passionate about and loving, and wanted to monetize them. Okay, so what would you suggest an introvert do if they are wanting to become a coach? Yeah, so I am actually an introvert myself. So hello, fellow introverts out there. And people are always surprised when I say that, just because of YouTube, but like in person, y'all, I promise you, I am so shy. I'm to myself, and I've always been that way. It's just part of who I am. But I've gotten a lot better over the years, and I always try to make a mental note to, you know, be a little bit more outgoing when I go in new settings and things like that. But the biggest thing I would say is that you have to kind of get comfortable being uncomfortable, especially if you are trying to be a coach. And I'm not sure what type of coach you want to be, but I do know that people look for someone that is confident in what they're talking about. And so if you're showing up online, you have a really strong presence online, you're an expert with what you're talking about, that will reflect, and then that will make people want to work with you. That will make people be more intrigued to want to follow you and different things like that. So I think while being an introvert can definitely be used as an excuse for a while, it can't be the thing that stops you. So you kind of have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, get on video, especially if your way of connecting with your audience is going to be through social media, and just kind of be prepared for those moments of awkwardness. One thing I will definitely say, especially when I knew that I was going to be a business coach and I wanted to really reach an audience outside of YouTube and things like that, I had to realize that I needed to go live, and I had to get comfortable with that. And I really didn't, I won't say don't, because I feel like I'm moving towards, I actually like it now, but for a really long time I hated going live. It was just not my thing. I was extremely nervous. I would be shaking. I would have all these talking points because I didn't want to mess up. And then I had to just get out of my head and realize, like, I'm an expert in my field. I know what I'm talking about. So I don't need to be nervous about this. And so that's the same advice I give to you. Really know that if you know your stuff, you got this, and you just have to show up confidently. And just sometimes you have to kind of put on that extroverted face in a way to make sure you can get your point across. And then you can kind of like calm down and, you know, be to yourself after that. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so the next question is, how did you start spreading the word that you opened an Etsy shop? Good question. I actually just put a reel up on Instagram earlier today, kind of around this topic of just like, because when I first started my business and I opened my Etsy shop, I had launched my planner insert, and not one person purchased it within the first couple weeks because I really didn't tell anybody about it. And so I've shared with you guys on here many times that launching is very important. Launching doesn't mean that it has to be like 6 months of, you know, preparing and all of this stuff. You don't want to put it off, but at the same time, it's extremely important that you create a launch strategy. I always highly recommend, especially if you're a brand new business, to at least give yourself a month to really build up your audience a little bit, educate them on what you're doing, share the behind the scenes as you're creating the products, and just really bring them along with you. That would be my biggest tip, instead of just kind of putting it out there like, hey, this product is available for sale, come purchase it. That's not going to get you the sales. You really want to build up your audience. You want to create some type of email opt-in that will get them to want to follow you, that will create some type of email opt-in that will get them to want to join your email list, that gives them something of value that they can take away from your interaction with them. So it's really important, and like I mentioned before, it's the same thing with product-based businesses. You have to get uncomfortable, you know, you have to kind of do that, especially if you are planning on growing your business on social media. So video is extremely important in whatever avenue you choose to do it. That is just the way that things are moving, and so I highly recommend that as well. Just incorporating video into your strategy, whether it's on Instagram, here on YouTube, whatever that may be, it's really, really important. So hopefully that helps. But I think all in all, with doing those different things, you can show the behind the scenes and bring people along, get them excited about what you're working on, get them on the email list, and then it will start to slowly build a relationship with people. Really think about it as if you are getting to know a friend for the first time. You're not going to just straight up tell them your life story just on the first time you guys meet. You're going to kind of get to feel their energy a little bit, kind of get to know them, you know, maybe have a couple of times where you guys talk, maybe you go out to lunch and do different things until you officially are ready to open up and be like, okay, this is my girl, this is my friend. And so it's the same thing with business. You have to build the relationship with your customers before you can expect them to pull out their wallet, you know, to give you anything. There really has to be a genuine connection there. So very important. And definitely, if I could tell 2016 Tatiana that, maybe her first launch would have went a lot better. Okay, so next question. Did you trademark your stationery business online? So I'm in the process of doing that right now. It is still very, very new. But it is something that I am in the works of doing, as well as my coaching business as well. So I don't really have a whole lot of advice or tips on that, but I do think it's important, and it's something that you should do once you are 100% confident and comfortable knowing that this is something you want to move forward with. You know that this is something that's going to last because it's not cheap. So, you know, you just want to make sure that before you decide to just go ahead and trademark something, that you are really ready to commit. But and that's just my opinion, but I think that it is important to do it, and I'm happy to finally be in the process of doing that. Okay, did you hire someone to do your branding, or did you do it yourself? So I do all of my branding, as far as messaging, you know, like how I talk to my audience, to my customers, as far as my logos, as far as my color palettes, my website, graphics online, all of that stuff is by me. I would love one day to have somebody help me with those things, but as of right now, I'm doing it all on top of designing the products for my business. So there's a lot of heavy design work that goes into it. And I know some people look at branding in different ways. I feel like branding is really like a look and a feel. So looks is really going to be all of the things like the logo, the graphics, the colors, and then the feel is really how your audience is going to resonate with you. What are the connections you're going to make? What is your brand story? And so yes, all of those things I've created. Okay, how long did it take for I cannot read, y'all. How long did it take for you to find a name for your business? Okay, so for the Stationary Muse, it took probably a good maybe like 2 or 3 months, because I kept going back and forth with the name that I wanted to have for it, and I really didn't want to call it the Stationary Muse. It just wasn't the first thing that I really wanted to call it, and I think because it felt so right, I think I was kind of fighting it. And so for a while I just wasn't really sure, and then I ended up just finally going with it because I had played around with so many names. I was tired of it, and it was one of the reasons that was kind of holding me back from getting started. So I think that, and this is just kind of turn it around and give some advice to you guys, if you are kind of struggling to figure out what you want to name your business. I know I'm actually working with a client right now where she is trying to figure out what she's going to be naming her business. And the biggest thing I would say is that really think about, how will this business impact other people in their lives? What is the overall goal outside of just the products, outside of just the looks of everything? You know, what is the life-changing thing that you hope to do for people? Which I hope that you want a business that impacts people, right? So what are the things that you can kind of expect to happen with that? And then think of synonyms or phrases or specific words that really tie into that overall feeling or that overall transformation that you want them to have. And that can kind of help you a little bit with just getting your mind working with some ideas. Definitely bounce ideas off of other people that you trust and that you know really have your best interest at heart. And just kind of see and, you know, play around with it a little bit. Maybe sit on it a couple of days, come back, look at the names. It definitely is a big decision, but also know that if for some reason, you know, you start the business and then you just hate your name like 6 months, a year later, or whatever the case is, I think it's okay to change it. That's what rebranding is all about. But just know that as you start to grow your audience and you get more known, you definitely don't want to keep doing that. So you really do want to find something that you love. Okay, so next question. I need help with my procrastination and focus. What can I do to motivate myself? This is a good question. And I know many of you out there are probably procrastinators. And I want to let you know that I can be too. So I think one of the reasons why a lot of times we do procrastinate is because of ourselves. Typically, you know, we might be holding ourselves back for whatever reason. And I think that it's kind of good to identify what that might be. Is it because you're fearful of something? Is it because maybe you tried it before and you failed? You know, did somebody say something to you that kind of turned you off from doing it? Whatever it is, kind of identify where that started from. And the biggest thing I would say is never look at something as just this whole big pie that you have to eat in one sitting. Really think about it as the little slices. So if you really break down your overall goal of launching your business, what is just one thing you can do this week to get started? And that can also help with the focus as well, because if you know your overall big goal is, okay, in the next 6 months, I'm going to launch my business, but this week, I'm going to focus on researching what e-commerce platform I want to be on. So that could just be your focus for that week. And then maybe the next week, I'm going to get my LLC. Next week, you know, just like there could be something every week. And I think if you look at it as the small individual steps instead of just the overall, oh my God, I got to launch a business, it makes it a lot better. It makes it easier to focus. And there's not so much to procrastinate with because you're just kind of doing bite-sized chunks. It doesn't make it as real yet, I guess, when you're not so focused on just like the bigger picture. And now that may not always work. And I think if it does specifically just come down to where you just continue to put it off, you've been researching yourself to death, but you have yet to take action, I really suggest just really looking at yourself and really identifying, like, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I holding myself back? Definitely check out the fear model for goals that I have. If you go down below, I have some free resources down there. The fear model for goals kind of helps you to figure out what doubts, fears, excuses, or things might be holding you back and how you can kind of move past that to get started. It's a free guide. Check that out. That might help you as well. But hopefully those are some good tips. I think all in all, we all procrastinate at times. Like I said, I do it myself, and I've just learned that I'll let myself live in that for a little bit, but eventually we got to get it going. We got to get it going. Okay, I've been talking forever. Okay, how do you plan out your planner? What do you suggest be done before you launch? Okay, so that's kind of a broad question with the how do you plan out your planner, but if you're meaning like the layout of it and everything, this is something that I definitely work with my one-on-one clients as well as those that are in the Handmade Planner Masterclass. So I highly suggest that you check those things out if you are interested in doing your own planner as well. Planner season is approaching, and I can definitely help you with getting some clarity around that. But the biggest thing I would say is if you are trying to figure out like, okay, what do I want in this planner? How do I want it to be laid out? I would first just start off with like, who is your target audience? Who is the person that's going to be receiving this planner? Why do they need it? What is going to change for them with them using this planner? Start asking yourself those questions, and then start making a list of what are some things that you can include in the planner, whether that be sections or, you know, prompts or whatever it may be in the planner that will help them get to that goal that you want them to have. So I would start there and just kind of making a list, and then from there you can start kind of sketching it out and really figuring out where you want things to go on the page. Answer, you know, like, do you want it to be monthly? Do you want it to be weekly, daily? Like, there's so many different things. Look for inspiration to see what other businesses are doing as far as just like aesthetic wise. You know, if you need, like, I love really clean design, you might want a very colorful design, maybe you want floral prints, maybe you want watercolor, whatever it may be, and just kind of get an overall feel of how you want it to feel for that target customer. And from there, just create an outline. Just outline the pages, figure out, you know, what should go before this, and so on. And eventually it will all come together in a nice little bow. And that was a very quick way to answer a very complex question. But again, definitely check out the courses because it'll help you. And then as far as what do I suggest to do before the launch, I think that you can be launching while you're working on the planner. So especially if you are just starting this business from scratch, use this time while you're creating it to start building a connection with your audience. Start polling your audience. Start educating them on what your business does, the planner that's going to be coming. Do countdowns and different things like that to get them excited early on. Even if, like, for example, if you are working on the planner right now, but you know you're not going to be ready to launch it until October or November or something like that, this is still a great time to be getting your email list built up and stuff like that. So you don't really have to have a whole lot done before you get started, other than really knowing who your target audience is and having somewhat of like a content strategy so that you have some things to share and talk about, and an email list platform. But other than that, the other things will come as you start to grow. How can I grow my email list? So I've kind of touched on this a little bit throughout this Q&A, but the biggest thing I would do is to figure out, you know, who is your target audience? What is something that they absolutely struggle with or something that they need? What void could you fill through some type of email opt-in? And the email opt-in, really try to think beyond like a coupon code, because to me, that's very salesy. It's very like, oh my gosh, get 15% off of your first order or your next order. And it's kind of like you're telling them to purchase still. So while I think coupon codes are great and you should incorporate them to really just build an email list, I think the biggest thing is to think about what is something valuable you can give them. So I personally love to do PDF opt-ins. That's my favorite thing. So just like some type of freebie that kind of gets them through. I mentioned earlier in this, the fear model for goals. It was actually a little training that I filmed, and then I had like a little mini workbook that they could print out and do. That was free to join my email list. It was very valuable. It helped a lot of people, and it continues to help a lot of people. So that's another thing too. Really think of your email opt-in as something that is evergreen, meaning that it's something that is constantly available. It doesn't have to be like specific to a certain time. It can be any time, and then that way it can constantly be doing the work for you of getting the email list to grow. So yeah, really think about what is a good opt-in that you can create for your audience, and then launch the opt-in like you would a product, promote it, and that will start to get the buzz to get people on your email list. How many social media channels should I focus on to grow my business? So my biggest thing is I always say to focus on one. I think that it's really hard to be good at something if you are literally all over the place and your ball is in all these different courts. So I would really try to just figure out what is the one platform that you love being on, and just focus on that one, and at least do it for a lengthy amount of time, whether it's like 3 to 6 months. if it's a year, just so then that way you can really build up the audience on there, get comfortable with that, kind of set it and forget it in a sense of like you kind of know what you're doing on there now, and then you can move on to, you know, the next thing to kind of add on. But also keep in mind that whatever your main platform is, which for me, mine's, I feel like was really YouTube last year, and I'm starting to really focus a lot more on Instagram this year. So whatever your main platform is, think about ways that you can then repurpose that content to splash onto other platforms. So if you're making a YouTube video and then you had something really good that you loved in that YouTube video, take a minute of that and put it on your Instagram page. You're not really making additional content. It's just kind of something that you already had. And that way you can slowly kind of build your audience up on the other platform if you want to, without feeling the pressure of having to do a ton. But I do feel that all the platforms have their own nuances and things like that. So if you pick one, I really suggest focusing on it. If you are going to be on Instagram and focus on Instagram, Instagram has a lot of things to learn and work with. So I will focus on that. If you're trying to grow on YouTube, these are kind of my two. So that's why I always go back and talk about them. YouTube, it has its things and you just really kind of have to focus on it and really get to know it. So that would be my suggestion. Focus on one. Okay, so I think I have a few more questions on the other Instagram, and then I'm gonna wrap this up. I don't know how long this is gonna be, y'all. There was just like one or two things on here. Okay, so one person said, no question, can't wait to buy the tank you are wearing, love your content. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a cute bun girl tank that's gonna be coming to the shop when it reopens. So she's talking about that. Thank you. And then this is another one. It says, what made you decide to open a stationery shop? I can't recall if you told us. Okay, so this is the last question. And I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier in the in this Q&A, but I think that there's a couple of reasons why I started this Stationery Muse, and I think a lot of it had to do with the place that I was in my life. If you've heard my personal story before, you know that I went through a period of being depressed. I went through a period of realizing that the dream that I had of becoming a performer and singing and all that stuff really was not happening for me. I moved back with my parents after college, and I really had to figure it all out. I was working on these strange odd jobs and stuff like that, and then I ended up moving. Long story short, I say all this to say that I had always been interested in planning, so to speak. Since I was younger, I always had planners and things like that. But after I moved and I kind of got settled in the job that I had at the time, this was like 2014, I felt like having a planner and doing the decorating and planning things out, it was really like the only thing that I could kind of control. And it was the thing that really brought me a lot of peace at the time, and it made me happy. And it was just kind of an escape sometimes from just not being the happiest with where I was in life, if that makes any sense. And I know that probably sounds really depressing, but the business really came out of me having to realize that, like, okay, even though this one path did not work for me, it doesn't mean that things are over. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to amount to what I hope to be, but it's just going to look a little bit different. And so the business really was more so my testament to me going through these difficult times in my life and really trying to find something that I absolutely love, first of all, that I can control, and then I can empower other women to do the same. And that was why from day one I always said that the business was Live, Love, Inspire. I was wanting to inspire women to go for anything that they want in life, and I 100% stand by that. I think that the stationery part is a bonus. It's great, and the products are amazing. I love them, and I will forever always love them. But the mission and the purpose behind the business is really why it started. So it was just really out of desperation of me going through some rough patches in my life and really wanting to create something to encourage other people through different seasons like that. And it since has turned into what it is today. So that is why I started the stationery business, and it has been great answering these questions for y'all. I'm getting ready to go chug down this water and rest my voice because I feel like it's getting ready to go hoarse. But I hope you guys enjoy this. If you are even still watching this, if you are still watching this, I always love to do this to see who actually still watches it. I love doing this. So if you are still watching this, comment down below real, because that means that you are a real one if you stuck around until the end. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, make sure you subscribe, give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.